Good day everyone. I'm gonna discuss about the ensuring a safe and healthy work environment. A safety and health management system, sometimes known as a safety program, can assist you in concentrating your efforts on improving your workplace. Whatever you call it, your strategy outlines what your company's employees do to prevent occupational injuries and illnesses. Your company will have its own system that reflects how you do business, the hazards you face on the job, and how you manage employee safety and health. If you run a small business in a low-risk industry, your system may consist of merely listening to and responding to your employees' concerns. A large company in a hazardous industry might have a full-time safety director and notebooks full of written regulations and procedures. Employers have a legal and moral obligation to guarantee that the workplace is safe for employees' physical and mental health, as well as to prevent the nearly 4,400 work-related deaths and 3 million injuries and illnesses recorded in the United States each year. Can you identify the most common cause of work-related injury in the United States? Keep watching to find out. Legal obligations for workplace safety and health. Occupational Safety and Health Act 314. The passage of the Occupational Safety and Health Act dramatically changed firms' role in ensuring that physical working conditions meet adequate standards. The impact of the OSH Act on the workplace has been profound. Since the Act became law in 1970, annual workplace fatalities have fallen from 14,000 to under 5,000. The Act established comprehensive and specific health standards, authorized inspections to ensure the standards are met, empowered the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, to police organizations' compliance, and required employers to keep records of illness and injuries and calculate accident ratios. The Act applies to almost every U.S. business engaged in interstate commerce. Under the law, states may create their own job safety and health program, and currently 27 states have state plans with standards either identical or even more effective than the federal standards. OSHA provides industry safety standards for 4 major categories of employers: general industry, construction, agriculture, and maritime. In addition to the standards provided for these specific industries, a general duty clause covers any potentially dangerous or unhealthy workplace conditions that aren't covered by specific industry regulation. This allows OSHA flexibility in regulating any workplace activity, and making sure that the safety and health of employees is protected. For example, ergonomic injuries or MSDs affecting workers as a result of their jobs are covered under the general duty clause. Regardless of industry, employers have the responsibility of providing employees with access to medical records and records of employee exposure to toxic substances in the workplace, providing employees with personal protective equipment necessary for safety including eye and ear protection and any necessary training, and providing information about any hazardous materials in the workplace. Employers are responsible for knowing standards and ensuring compliance, while OSHA develops training and education programs to help employers understand the regulations and stay in compliance.
Our next topic is OSHA record-keeping requirements. Employers in industries where a high percentage of accidents and injuries occur must maintain safety and health records. Some organizations such as universities and retail establishments are exempt from record-keeping because of the low incidence of injury. It's important to understand that organizations exempt from record-keeping requirements must still comply with the law itself. Their only exception is the reduction of time spent on maintaining safety record. Forms required for record keeping include the following. First, OSHA Form 300, Log of Work-Related Injuries and Illnesses, see Exhibit 13-1. Second, OSHA Form 300A, Summary of Work-Related Injuries and Illnesses. And lastly, OSHA Form 301, Injury and Illness Incident Report. Employers with 11 or more employees must complete Form 300 and Form 301 within 7 days of a work-related injury or illness. Employers are required to keep these safety records on file for 5 years. If an organization has multiple sites, a 300 form must be maintained for each site. Any work-related illness that requires treatment beyond first aid must be reported on Form 300. Injuries need to be reported only when they require medical treatment other than first aid or involve loss of consciousness, restriction of work or motion, or transfer to another job.
The next topic will be OSHA inspection and enforcement. Because limited time and resources make it impractical for OSHA to investigate every safety concern in every workplace, it's necessary to prioritize investigations. OSHA has established a 6-item priority listing with the goal of making resources available for the most urgent situations and investigating others as resources permit. In descending order, these include the following. All workers have the right to a safe workplace. Raise a safety or health concern with your employer or OSHA, or report a work-related injury or illness, without being retaliated against. Receive information and training on job hazard, including hazardous substances in your workplace. Request an OSHA inspection of your workplace if you believe there are unsafe or unhealthy conditions. OSHA will keep your name confidential. You have the right to have a representative contact OSHA on your behalf. Participate, or have your representative participate, in an OSHA inspection and speak in private to the inspector. File a complaint with OSHA within 30 days, by phone, online or by mail, if you have been retaliated against for using your rights. See any OSHA citations issued to your employer. Request copies of your medical records, tests that measure hazards in the workplace injury and illness law. Employers must provide employees a workplace free from recognized hazards. It is illegal to retaliate against an employee for using any of their rights under the law, including raising a health and safety concerns with you or with OSHA, or reporting a work-related injury or illness. Comply with all applicable OSHA standards. Report to OSHA all work-related fatalities within 8 hours, and all inpatient hospitalizations, amputations and losses of an eye within 24 hours. Provide required training to all workers in a language and vocabulary they can understand. Prominently display this poster in the workplace. And lastly, post OSHA citations that are near the place of alleged violation.
The next topic will be OSHA protection. Number 1. Imminent danger refers to a condition in which an accident is about to occur. Although this is given top attention and serves as a preventative step, instances of impending danger are difficult to describe. Imminent danger is defined as a situation in which the risk of serious harm or death is so high that it could occur before OSHA has time to investigate. This includes things like an unstable trench or exposed electrical cable that might cause a serious or fatal accident promptly under current conditions, according to OSHA. It could also be a health hazard, such as toxic compounds or harmful fumes, dusts, or gases that can cause death or irreversible bodily harm, shorten life, or impair physical or mental performance. 2. Fatalities and catastrophes include recent events involving 3 or more employees that resulted in death or inpatient hospitalization. These serious occurrences must be reported to an OSHA field office within 8 hours of their occurrence. This allows investigators to examine the site and try to figure out what caused the accident. Heart attacks that occur during the workday, for example, should be reported to OSHA so that they can be investigated to see if they were caused by the job or the work environment. 3. Employee complaints. If an employee sees a violation of OSHA standards, that employee has the right to call OSHA and request an investigation. The worker may even refuse to work on the job in question until OSHA has investigated the complaint. This is especially true when a union is involved. For instance, some union contracts permit workers to legally refuse to work if they believe they are in significant danger. Accordingly, they may stay off the job with pay until OSHA arrives and either finds the complaint invalid or cites the company and mandates compliance. 4. Referrals from other federal, state or local agencies, individuals, or news media. 5. Follow-ups on organizations that have previously been cited to make sure corrective action has been taken. And 6. Planned or programmed investigations. OSHA has limited resources, and its budget has been significantly cut in the past. In order to have the largest effect, OSHA began to partner with state health and safety agencies and together direct their attention to those industries with the highest injury rates, industries such as chemical plants, oil refineries, and places with a high likelihood of workplace violence. OSHA penalties. Employers who have been found to violate OSHA regulations are issued fines based on the seriousness of the violation and the actions or history of the employer. Serious violations exist when the workplace hazard either caused or could have caused an accident or illness that would have resulted in death or serious physical harm. An example would be if the employment situation required workers to wear protective eyewear or steel-toed footwear, but the employer never enforced the requirement. Penalties up to $7,000 may be issued for each violation. Willful violations mean the employer knew about a regulation and purposely ignored it or acted with indifference for worker safety. Willful violations carry fines between $5,000 and $70,000 per violation. If a willful violation resulted in the death of an employee, the fine can increase by $250,000 for an individual or $500,000 for an organization, and executives in the company may be criminally liable. Willful violations often include failure to install or maintain safety guards on machinery, placing workers in danger of crushing or amputation of hands or fingers. Failure to provide adequate fall protection is another common example. Repeated violations are just what they sound like. When an organization has previously been cited for a violation and a similar violation is found, fines up to $70,000 may be imposed for each violation. Discount store chain Dollar Tree was recently fined over $200,000 for 3 willful violations and 1 repeat violation that included failing to keep exit routes clear, storing materials in unstable ways, and failure to store helium gas cylinders securely. Fines are not levied for safety violations alone. A company that fails to keep its OSH Act records properly can be subjected to stiff penalties. Creating safer workplaces. OSHA's role is to promote the safety and health of America's working men and women by setting and enforcing standards, providing training, outreach, and education, establishing partnerships, and encouraging continual process improvement in workplace safety and health. The mission is achieved by providing a variety of services, including researching industries with high injury and illness rates, targeting specific health and safety hazards for improvement, and providing education and training to employees and employers. Industries with a significant number of illness and injuries as compared with other industries receive special attention from OSHA with the goal of reducing injuries to employees. The National Emphasis Program, NEP, identifies major health and safety hazards that require attention. The list of hazards changes every year and has included combustible dust, hazardous machinery, nursing and residential care facilities, trenching and excavation, and inhaled substances. Let's take a look at some OSHA suggestions for making the workplace safe for all.
Inspection process. Even the most cautious and conscientious employer occasionally has an employee concern or injury that results in a complaint to OSHA. It isn't the end of the world, and the employer won't be invaded by an army of uncooperative OSHA officers. There is a clearly outlined procedure that starts even before OSHA inspectors appear. Before your inspection, the OSHA compliance officer becomes familiar with as many relevant facts as possible about the workplace, taking into account such things as the history of the establishment, the nature of the business, and the particular standards that are likely to apply. Inspector's credentials. An inspection begins when the OSHA compliance officer arrives at the establishment. He or she displays official credentials and asks to meet an appropriate employer representative. Supreme Court ruled in Marshall v. Barlows Incorporated that employers are not required to let OSHA inspectors enter the premises unless the inspectors have search warrants. Only a small percentage of companies require OSHA inspectors to obtain a warrant. Many law firms offer representation for firms dealing with OSHA inspections, and attorneys who deal with OSHA suggest that companies be cooperative rather than confrontational. OSHA inspectors are not supposed to be influenced by an employer's request for a search warrant, but it may raise red flags. Opening conference. The official will initiate an opening conference and explain why the establishment was selected. The compliance officer then explains the purpose of the visit, the scope of the inspection, and the standards that apply. The employer will be given a copy of any employee complaint that may be involved. If the employee has requested anonymity, his or her name will not be revealed. The employer is asked to select an employer representative to accompany the compliance officer during the inspection. An authorized employee representative may also participate. At this point, the employer may share information regarding the company's safety program, emphasizing how the program is communicated to employees and how it is enforced. Inspection tour. The OSHA compliance officer and employer representatives proceed through the establishment, inspecting work areas for compliance with OSHA standards. The compliance officer decides where to go and how long to stay. During the tour, the compliance officer may talk to employees, take photos, and take readings of things like decibel levels and air quality. The compliance officer will inspect records of deaths, injuries, and illnesses, which the employer is required to keep. He or she will check to see that a copy of the illness and injury totals from OSHA forms have been posted, and that the OSHA workplace poster is prominently displayed. The compliance officer will also evaluate the general health and safety of the workplace related to specific OSHA standards, or to recognize hazards cited under the General Duty Clause. Depending on the type of industry and the operations involved, these may include Emergency Action Plan, Fire Prevention Plan, Emergency Response Plan, Lockout/Tagout Program, Respirator Program, Confined Space Entry Program, Hazard Communication Program, and so on. The compliance officer will point out to the employer any unsafe or unhealthful working conditions observed and discuss possible corrective action the employer may take. An inspection tour may cover part or all of an established closing conference. After the inspection tour, a closing conference is held between the compliance officer and the employer or the employer representative. The compliance officer will cover all unsafe or unhealthful conditions observed on the inspection and indicate all apparent violations for which a citation may be issued or recommended. The employer is told of appeal rights. The compliance officer does not indicate any proposed penalties. Only the OSHA area director has that authority, and only after having received a full report. If employer believes that the fine levied is unjust or too harsh, the law permits the employer to file an appeal. This appeal is reviewed by the Occupational Safety and Health Review Commission, an independent safety and health board. Although this commission's decisions are generally final, employers may still appeal commission decisions through the federal courts.
OSHA penalties. Employers who have been found to violate OSHA regulations are issued fines based on the seriousness of the violation and the actions or history of the employer. Serious violations exist when the workplace hazard either caused or could have caused an accident or illness that would have resulted in death or serious physical harm. An example would be if the employment situation required workers to wear protective eyewear or steel-toed footwear, but the employer never enforced the requirement. Penalties up to $7,000 may be issued for each violation. Willful violations mean the employer knew about a regulation and purposely ignored it or acted with indifference for worker safety. Willful violations carry fines between $5,000 and $70,000 per violation. If a willful violation resulted in the death of an employee, the fine can increase by $250,000 for an individual or $500,000 for an organization, and executives in the company may be criminally liable. Willful violations often include failure to install or maintain safety guards on machinery, placing workers in danger of crushing or amputation of hands or fingers. Failure to provide adequate fall protection is another common example. Repeated violations are just what they sound like. When an organization has previously been cited for a violation and a similar violation is found, fines up to $70,000 may be imposed for each violation. Discount store chain Dollar Tree was recently fined over $200,000 for 3 willful violations and 1 repeat violation that included failing to keep exit routes clear, storing materials in unstable ways, and failure to store helium gas cylinders securely. Fines are not levied for safety violations alone. A company that fails to keep its OSH Act records properly can be subjected to stiff penalties. Creating safer workplaces. OSHA's role is to promote the safety and health of America's working men and women by setting and enforcing standards, providing training, outreach, and education, establishing partnerships, and encouraging continual process improvement in workplace safety and health. The mission is achieved by providing a variety of services, including researching industries with high injury and illness rates, targeting specific health and safety hazards for improvement, and providing education and training to employees and employers. Industries with a significant number of illness and injuries as compared with other industries receive special attention from OSHA with the goal of reducing injuries to employees. The National Emphasis Program, NEP, identifies major health and safety hazards that require attention. The list of hazards changes every year and has included combustible dust, hazardous machinery, nursing and residential care facilities, trenching and excavation, and inhaled substances. Let's take a look at some OSHA suggestions for making the workplace safe for all.
Management commitment and employee involvement. A first step toward safety is a strong management commitment to providing a safe and healthy workplace. Convincing employers to commit the time, effort, and expense necessary to protect employees should be easy considering the cost-saving benefits, including the following: healthier employees, lower workers' compensation costs, reduce medical expenses, better quality products, increased productivity, increased morale, better labor/management relations. Once management has chosen to lead the way with a strong commitment to safety, it must be demonstrated with clear policies and action. Employee involvement must be developed by including them in identifying safety and health problems. Employee insight and perspective is a valuable resource and their cooperation is necessary. Their safety and goodwill are important to business success. How can a company get them involved? Employers can do the following. Develop and post a company worker safety policy near the required OSHA workplace poster, see Exhibit 13-3. Hold regular meetings on safety and health with employees. Require all management to follow the same safety standards as employees, including wearing hard hats, safety glasses, and footwear. Create and post written safety responsibilities for line managers, supervisors, and employees. Allow adequate time and resources to determine hazards and correct them. Regularly review and evaluate safety initiatives with employees. Provide safety incentives including awards, prizes, or cash for workers or work units with excellent safety records. Establish safety committees and identify safety representatives representing all levels of employees. The next would be the work analysis. Employers hold responsibility for understanding what is necessary to keep workers safe from harm. Employers who lack expertise in determining all possible hazards and relevant standards should consider asking their state or regional OSHA programs for a free and confidential visit. Private safety consultants also offer similar services for a fee. Self-inspections by managers and employees can provide valuable insight into potential and existing problems and how to prevent them. Employees should be encouraged to report concerns honestly and promptly without fear of reprisals. Records of previous injuries and illness may indicate patterns that help prevent future problems. Hazard prevention and control. Worksite analysis may uncover hazards that must be eliminated or controlled. OSHA state offices may provide valuable advice on how to do this, but there are many things employers can do themselves too. For example, once safe work procedures are established, they must provide adequate training so all employees understand and demonstrate the safe procedures. This may require providing training in a variety of ways and languages and reinforcing it often. HRM also needs to make sure employees comply with safety procedures, even when they don't want to. Employees often consider safety equipment or protective clothing to be bulky, hot, or uncomfortable and may need some encouragement to use it. The company disciplinary policy should be used by providing warnings and appropriate consequences to employees who do not comply with safety policies. If personal protective equipment, PPE, is necessary, employers need to make sure employees know why it is necessary, when to use it, and how to maintain it. It is important to remember that if safety equipment such as goggles is required, the employer must pay for it. Employers with hazardous chemicals in the workplace are required to label them clearly and provide safety data sheets, SDS. These documents identify proper handling of hazardous substances, toxicity, first aid for accidental exposure, storage, reactivity, disposal, and other information necessary in case of spill or emergency. complete SDS forms are usually made available by the manufacturer of the chemical product. Companies must maintain equipment regularly to prevent breakdowns and hazardous situations. There needs to be a plan for fires and any natural disasters that an area is likely to experience, and drills should be conducted so employees know how to respond quickly. Employers should consider asking a local doctor or a nurse to provide assistance in developing a plan for handling first aid or medical emergencies. Organizations should ask for employees to volunteer as first responders and provide the necessary training if medical assistance isn't quickly accessible. Training for employees, supervisors, and managers. Owners and managers need to be sure that employees understand possible workplace hazards and are trained in how to handle them. OSHA state consultants or private safety.
Every year, OSHA compiles and reports statistics on the most common workplace safety violations. The list of risks is pretty stable year after year, providing employers something to consider when creating a safe workplace.
In line with this, here are OSHA's top 10 violations.
Number 1. Fall protection. OSHA provides employers with standards indicating where fall protection is required for employees working over 4 feet off the ground in general industry and 6 feet in construction. The standards include what type of fall protection must be used in given situations. The majority of falls are from ladders and roofs, and they are the leading cause of death on the job. Number 2. Hazard communication. Employers are required to inform employees of the hazards of all chemicals in the workplace. Hazardous chemicals must be labeled and employees must be trained how to handle them. Safety data sheet SDS that explains the chemicals must be available to all employees.
Number 3. Scaffolding. Employers must protect employees from falls and falling objects when they are using scaffolding more than 10 feet off the ground. 72% of workers injured in scaffold accidents attributed the accident to either the planking shifting or falling, the employee falling, or being struck by a falling object. Number 4. Respiratory protection. OSHA estimates that 5 million workers are required to wear respirators in over 1 million workplaces in the United States. Respirators protect against harmful dust, fog, smoke, gas, vapors, sprays, and environments where oxygen may be insufficient. This prevents cancer, lung disease, and even death.
5. Control of hazardous energy. Lockout/tagout. OSHA standards requires that power for equipment and machinery be cut during maintenance and servicing. This prevents situations where an employee servicing the equipment may be injured because another worker turns the power back on by mistake. OSHA estimates that lockout/tagout (LOTO) procedures protect approximately 3 million workers who work with machinery or equipment. 6. Powered industrial trucks (PIT). Powered equipment such as forklifts, motorized hand trucks, and pallet jacks are covered by OSHA standards. Standards cover design, maintenance, operation, and training procedures. Every year, employees are injured because of unsafe operation of powered industrial trucks when they are accidentally driven off loading docks or strike an employee. Property damage is also common.
Number 7. Electrical wiring methods. Electricity is a common workplace hazard. Standards protect electricians and construction workers who come into direct contact with electricity, as well as workers who come into indirect contact with electricity. This includes nearly everyone. Number 8. Ladders. Falls from ladders and scaffolding combined are the biggest cause of occupational injury in the United States. In recent years, deaths from falls have varied from 160 to 809. Employers are required to protect workers who work over dangerous equipment or machinery.
9. Machine guarding. Moving machine parts must be covered or protected to prevent injuries like crushed fingers or hands, burns, eye injuries, or accidental amputations. 10. Electrical systems. Workers should be protected from poorly designed electrical systems and workplace electrical hazards. According to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, electrocution is the third leading cause of work-related injury death among 16 and 17-year-olds. Examples of hazards include coming into contact with power lines while working on roofs, using ladders, operating vehicles with telescoping equipment, and tree trimming.
OSHA's extensive website provides an enormous amount of practical, easy-to-read, and understandable information for employees and employers. Regulations are clearly defined and compliance and inspection procedures are explained in simple terms. Education and training are a major emphasis of the OSHA website and include downloadable forms, templates for forms such as material safety data sheets, handbooks for small business, email newsletters, training program information, and interactive online training called eTools that covers dozens of occupational safety and health topics. The OSHA site is available in English and Spanish.
Now that we are done with the top 10 violations, let's proceed with the health and safety issues. Safety is everyone's responsibility and should be part of the organization's culture. Top management must show its commitment to safety by providing resources to purchase safety devices and maintaining equipment. Firms should provide training and make sure that safety is a part of every employee's performance goals. As mentioned in Chapter 10 on performance evaluations, if something isn't included, there's a tendency to diminish its importance. Employers must always be aware of trends and developments that may produce concerns for the health and safety of employees. Let's examine several topics of current concern to employers.
Let's talk about workplace violence. The sad examples of horrific workplace violence that make the news seem to on the rise. A UPS worker entered the facility where he was recently fired, shot, and killed 2 people before taking his own life. A food processing plant employee left the HR office after being fired and beheaded one co-worker and repeatedly stabbed another with a knife commonly used for work. A disgruntled employee of a technology company shot and killed 7 co-workers including the vice president of HR. These recent episodes of violence in the workplace have made us painfully aware that we cannot take safety for granted. These are among the 400 and 500 workplace homicides every year that make the news. Nearly 2 million U.S. workers are victims of workplace violence every year in incidents that don't make the news.
Organizations must develop a plan to prevent workplace violence before it occurs. This should include a workplace violence prevention policy that outlines the types of behaviors that are prohibited. Examples might include bullying, horseplay, fighting, harassment, threats, and actual violence against co-workers, customers, vendors, or business associates. Procedures for reporting and investigating prohibited behavior should be spelled out. Possible disciplinary actions such as warnings or termination should be explained. If a zero-tolerance policy dictates immediate dismissal for acts of violence, then it should also be made clear.
Let's talk about workplace bullying. In many ways, bullying isn't much different from workplace violence. Employees suffer abuse resulting in poor morale, reduced productivity, and increased turnover. The problem is that it is often part of organizational culture and is perpetrated by individuals in positions of authority. The Workplace Bullying Institute defines bullying as repeated, health-harming mistreatment of one or more persons, the targets, by one or more perpetrators. It is abusive conduct that is threatening, humiliating, or intimidating, or work interference, sabotage, which prevents work from getting done, or verbal abuse. It may be called incivility, personality conflicts, or disrespect, but the goal is to assert control or power over the victim. Bullies often encourage others to participate in the activities, which can include gossip, targeted unfair criticism, exclusion, or isolation, creating intolerable work conditions or impossible productivity expectations. Tolerating bullying results in increased turnover, absenteeism, lowered productivity, and can result in workers' compensation claims and lawsuits. Employers can reduce bullying behaviors by creating a culture of respect and educating employees on the nature and effects of bullying in the workplace. Creating a policy that explains the definition of bullying with specific examples of behaviors that are not tolerated, help bullies and victims to identify it. Procedures for reporting, investigating, and disciplinary actions should be clearly communicated on a regular basis.
Now, let's move on to indoor air quality. Unhealthy work environments are a concern to everyone. If workers cannot function properly at their jobs because of constant headaches, watering eyes, breathing difficulties, or fear of exposure to materials that may cause long-term health problems, productivity will decrease. Work environments that may contain airborne contaminants from office machines, cleaning products, construction activities, carpets and furnishings, perfumes, water-damaged building materials, latex products, air fresheners, microbial growth, fungal, mold, and bacterial, insects, and outdoor pollutants are sometimes referred to as sick buildings. Some suggestions for keeping the workplace environment healthy include the following. Make sure workers have enough fresh air. The cost of providing it is minimal compared with the expense. Avoid suspect building materials and furnishings. As a general rule, if it stinks before installation, it will emit an odor afterward. Substitute tacks for smelly carpet glue or natural wood for chemically treated plywood. Test new buildings for toxins before occupancy.
Let's move forward to the smoke-free environment. While smoking in public is not banned nationwide, most states have some type of ban on smoking in public in place. The dangers and health problems associated with smoking have been well documented, and they translate into a variety of increased costs for employers and employees. Smokers have significantly higher absentee, injury, accident, and disciplinary rates than non-smoking employees. Smokers are also more likely to be admitted to a hospital and have longer hospital stays, which increases costs of employer-provided health care coverage. A few states provide exceptions for restaurants, bars, and casinos, creating concern that hospitality workers in those states are exposed to increased health risks from second-hand smoke.
Last one, let's have musculoskeletal disorder. Workers that are required to perform prolonged, repetitive physical tasks can be at risk of developing work-related physical injuries called musculoskeletal disorders, MSD, also known as repetitive stress injuries. These disorders include carpal tunnel syndrome, lumbar strain, hernias, and tendinitis. They occur in almost any industry, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that industries with the highest rates of MSD include healthcare, transportation, and warehousing, retail and wholesale trade, and construction. MSD accounts for over 30% of all worker injury and illness cases. The cost to employers of MSD provides significant costs to employers in terms of lost workdays, reduced productivity, workers' compensation claims, medical costs, absenteeism, and turnover. Poor workplace ergonomics are often the cause of work-related MSDs.
When we notice an opportunity, constraint, or demand connected to something we want, yet the outcome is both unpredictable and crucial, we experience stress. Stress can take on both beneficial and negative aspects. When a circumstance provides an opportunity to acquire something, stress is said to be positive. For example, the psyching up process that an athlete goes through can be difficult but can lead to optimal performance. However, when we are subjected to limits or demands, stress can turn negative. Here are the example of common causes of our stress. Do you have a demanding boss or professor? Do you have a hard time finishing tasks because you don't have enough time? Do you feel pressed to avoid making mistakes in class or at work? Co-workers that are a pain to work with? What are the sources of stress in your life? Any of these factors can make you feel more stressed. Let's look at how stress enters our lives through work demands, role expectations, and interpersonal demands, as well as organizational structure and leadership. Task demands. The job of an employee is related to task needs. These factors include job design, autonomy, task variety, and degree of automation, working circumstances, and physical work layout. The greater the connection between an employee's tasks and those of others, the greater the risk of stress. Autonomy, on the other hand, has been shown to reduce stress levels. Role demands. Role demands refer to the pressures that an employee faces as a result of the role that he or she plays in the organization. Expectations may be difficult to reconcile or satisfy as a result of role conflicts. When an employee is required to accomplish more than their time allows, they experience role overload. When position requirements are unclear and the employee is confused what to do, role ambiguity arises. Interpersonal demands. Other employees' pressures are known as interpersonal demands. Employees with a high social demand may experience significant stress as a result of a lack of social support from coworkers and poor interpersonal interactions. Organization structure. Stress can be exacerbated by organizational structure. Excessive restrictions and a lack of opportunity for employees to participate in choices that affect them are examples of structural elements that could cause stress. Organizational leadership. The supervisory style of the organization's authorities is referred to as organizational leadership. A culture of stress, dread, and anxiety is fostered by some supervisors. They place unrealistic pressures on employees to succeed in the short term, enforce excessively tight restrictions, and repeatedly terminate people who fail to meet the standards. This type of leadership has a ripple effect across the organization, affecting all personnel. Personal factors. The way we deal with work-related stress and personal concerns is influenced by our personality traits. It is critical for management to comprehend how employee personality influences stress vulnerability. Individual behavior along a continuum, with Type A personalities on one end and Type B personalities on the other, is a popular way to categorize these features. Impatience, competitiveness, perfectionism, and a difficult time accepting and enjoying leisure time are all characteristics of Type A behavior. Even if organizational and personal stresses are modest, managers must realize that Type A individuals are more prone to develop stress symptoms. Type B conduct, on the other hand, is more patient, creative, and collaborative. Worker burnout is characterized by long-term emotional stress, as well as emotional and/or physical tiredness. Burnout can cause people to become cynical, irritated, and impatient, as well as poor job productivity, health issues, and substance misuse. Uncertain employment expectations, a dysfunctional or unpleasant work culture, a poor personal fit with a job, poorly planned jobs, or a lack of work-life balance can all contribute to burnout. Reducing stress. Some stressors may be reduced or eliminated by employers, but absolute eradication is improbable. One alternative is to create stress management programs that aim to lessen workplace stressors while also teaching employees how to cope with inevitable stress. GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, has implemented a number of efforts to assist employees in maintaining their personal health and productivity. Monitor employee workloads and deadlines. Encourage employees to be open and honest when their responsibilities become too much for them or deadlines seem impossible to meet. Have a zero-tolerance policy toward employee aggression. Slamming phones, rudeness, screaming, name-calling, and fighting are examples of desk rage situations. Establish and encourage use of wellness programs. Many wellness programs provide massage, yoga, meditation, nap rooms, dogs, carpools, on-site chaplains, and cuisine in addition to fitness and nutrition management. Encourage vacations and discourage working on weekends and vacations. Waterhouse with the Price Coopers encourages employees to leave work at home on weekends by incorporating a pop-up message reminding them that it is the weekend when they access email. Sponsor seminars, workshops, and programs on stress management. After implementing their Energy for Performance and Personal Resilience programs, GSK was able to considerably cut stress-related costs. Utilize employee participation, communication, and empowerment programs. When Sunshine Ace hardware stores faced a staff reduction, they brought the matter to the employees and used brainstorming sessions to come up with methods to avoid layoffs, resulting in reduced hours for all employees and eliminating the need for layoffs. Participation in employee assistance programs. Encourage supervisors to refer employees who are stressed or experiencing a difficult time to the EAP. Since the start of the recession, calls to a New York-based EAP have increased by 21%. Establishing a culture that values fun, lighthearted play, and laughter. Stress is created when there is no time to play. Review job descriptions. Employees who see a direct link between their employment and the company's goals are more likely to find significance in their work. If they are unable to do so, the task may have to be redesigned. Support an informal social network within the workplace. Employees that build friendship relationships are more likely to support one another. Provide a safe workplace. Install ergonomic workstations and reduce crowding, clutter, and air pollution to provide a safe workplace. Encourage staff to leave noisy environments on a regular basis or use white noise generators or headsets to reduce noise levels. Establish work-life balance programs. Set up work-life balance programs like on-site childcare, health care, or concierge services to help employees with personal chores like auto repairs, travel arrangements, and postal services. If the trip is longer than 2 days, one consulting firm enables family members to accompany staff on business trips. We are going to talk about the international safety issues. Employee security has become increasingly important, both during travel and once they arrive. The United States State Department, once again, publishes travel warnings and alerts on its website. However, safety precautions must be taken before embarking on an international trip. Many companies advise traveling executives to blend in with the local population by wearing low-key, acceptable clothing, not carrying expensive luggage, eliminating luggage tags with titles such as Vice President, and traveling in small groups if possible. When you get at the airport, check in at the airline's ticket counter as soon as possible and go through security checks to the less crowded gate area. If the expatriate is accompanied by family, the goal remains the same: to fit in. These persons must immediately acquire some local smart. In addition to learning the language, they must adapt to local customs and attempt to dress in the same manner as the locals. When traveling, safety is a top priority. Executives working in risky areas of the world are frequently provided with electronic security systems for their homes and offices, as well as bodyguards or armed chauffeurs, but individual awareness is the most important aspect. Kidnapping is becoming more widespread in some areas, and kidnappers are looking for people who are tied to a government or corporation that would pay a ransom. It's critical to avoid establishing patterns for local travel and other activities. Employees should take diverse routes to and from work, and children should take multiple routes to and from school. If possible, the family food shopping should be done at separate times each day or in different marketplaces. Every family member should take these and other safeguards, as well as maintain a continual awareness of their surroundings.
Hello, today I'm gonna discuss about the EAP or Employee Assistance Program. Employee Assistance Programs, also referred to as Worksite Assistance Programs or Employee Wellbeing Programs, refer to a collection of initiatives within an organization to promote healthy lifestyles among employees. It is a work-based intervention program designed to assist employees in resolving personal problems that may be adversely affecting the employee's performance. The EAP offers help with the resolution of difficulties that may be affecting work. These difficulties, however, do not have to be caused by workplace issues. Employee assistance programs are designed to help people understand or overcome their difficulties regardless if the source is work or otherwise. While most EAPs offer a wide range of services, they often refer to other professionals or agencies who can offer more or extended care in particular areas. Personal difficulties, job stress, relationship difficulties, elder care, child care, parenting difficulties, harassment, substance abuse, separation and loss, balancing work and family, and lastly, financial or legal. Some EAP providers are also able to offer other services including retirement or layoff assistance, and wellness/health promotion and fitness, such as weight control, nutrition, exercise, or smoking. Others may offer advice on long-term illnesses, disability challenges, counseling for crisis situations, for example, death at work, or advice specifically for managers/supervisors in dealing with difficult situations. When a worker voluntarily contacts an EAP provider, a confidential record is open.
Resources for employers and employees. Employers of all sizes are required by law to give necessary support and reasonable adjustments to all employees in order to provide a safe workplace and prevent discrimination. Our free resources provide important information and can be used to business owners who want a productive workforce, HR managers, IT and health and safety specialists responsible for supporting colleagues, trade unions supporting their members, employees with any kind of impairment or limiting condition, their family, friends and colleagues. The majority of firms provide competitive pay and benefits to their employees. However, in order to attract and keep the finest employees, they frequently incorporate additional benefits in their contracts. While these advantages will not add to your bank account, they will make your pay package more appealing. Fringe benefits are a concept that dates back to the late 1800s. The American Express Railroad firm designed and offered an employee pension plan in 1875, which was one of the first. For people who worked for the company for 10 to 20 years and were above the age of 60, the company paid out a percentage of their salary. Benefits that are offered today include life, disability, and health insurance bundles, tuition reimbursement or education assistance, fitness center access or discounts, employee meals and cafeteria plans, dependent care assistance, retirement plan contributions, health savings plans (HSAs) or flexible savings accounts (FSAs), profit sharing or stock options, remote work or work from home arrangements.